As entrepreneurs, we all have a reason why we chose to leave our 9 to 5 for an 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. I'm here to capture those stories of why we all hustle and grind for our companies. Anita began her career in the corporate world, but found her true calling in entrepreneurship over 25 years ago. She has started 2 companies, written 9 books, and hosted a radio show, internet TV program, and a podcast. As the author's midwife, Anita helps C-suite execs and seasoned entrepreneurs write, publish, and leverage their books. Her Write Your Life authored coaching program reveals the secrets to creating best-selling, award-winning books. Anita authored Becoming the Minimalist Entrepreneur, Lessons Learned from My Journey to Work Less, Earn More, and Play More. She values learning from her mistakes and embraces a minimalistic entrepreneurial approach. So, Anita, thank you so much for being on the show today. I'm really excited to bring you on, simply because as somebody who's kind of trying to get a book together and understands it's hard, there's a lot that goes into it. I'm really looking forward to you bringing a bunch of wisdom as to like what you do as far as books, how to get them done, and a whole bunch of other entrepreneurial stuff. So
Oh
really
yeah,
great to have you on today.
I'm ready for you, Andrew. This is great. Thanks for having me.
Perfect. So I know in the intro, we hear what you have to say, and intros say a lot of things. However, I really love to hear it from the entrepreneur. What's your ninja skill in your business? Like, what does your business do well?
My ninja skill. Wow. I think that what we bring to the table at Write Your Life
Mhm.
that is super, super valuable to our clients is organization.
Mhm.
People come to us with all these years of experience, right? These are professionals, these are corporate CEOs who've got decades of experience in their field. These are entrepreneurs who've been at it for a long time and they got a lot of stuff they're packing it in, right? They're like, I got this book I want to write. I know things. I know a lot of things.
Yeah.
And they want to bring it all to the table. Well, it all doesn't belong in your one book. You might have a couple of books in you, but our superpower is helping you sift through all the stuff to get to the really good stuff, organizing your thoughts, clearing the cobwebs out of your brain so that we can focus on the one thing, the one theme, the one topic, the one main idea that you want to focus on in your book. And then we can build it up from there. And it sounds super simple, but you'd be surprised to know how much you know when you come to the book writing table. I mean, I love it when people come and they're ready. They're like, I'm ready to write my book. I've been trying to do this for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and I just haven't been able to make progress. Well, part of the reason is because you are scatterbrained. You want to try to put it all in there. You want to try to put 30 years of a career into one book. And that's just not how it works. So we help you sift through it all, clear the cobwebs, get really, really focused on one theme. We help you get focused on your ideal reading audience, right? And get super clear about what should happen at the end of the book. What takeaway should the reader get? Because you're writing to change people's lives in some way. They should close the last page of your book feeling something. What do you want them to think, feel, or do when they're done? And that's the takeaway you want them to have. And then we also help authors get really clear about what's the purpose of the book for them. Why are you writing this book in the first place? Get super clear about that.
Mhm. And I think that's one thing that's really important. And I do this with keynotes as well. As the very first question I ask is why? Why are you writing this keynote? Because I had a bunch of clients who would say, I just want to go out and talk. And it's like, well, let's be more strategic about where this fits into your larger plan. And so I love the fact that you hit on that specific. Where does this fall? Like
Mm-hmm.
just write a book to write a book. Write a book before a reason. I really love
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. And so just curiosity, how long does this normally take your clients? Because we always think I'm going to go write a book and it sounds really easy. And then we realize how long it's actually going to take.
Well, there's a lot of programs out there that'll teach you how to write a book in a weekend. We don't do that.
Mhm.
I was telling somebody the other day, we don't do fast, right? We don't do fast because to produce a really good book, it takes about 9 to 12 months.
Mhm.
Which, if you've been trying to write a book for 10 years, is nothing, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So, from concept to completion, it takes about 9 to 12 months. And what that looks like is typically clients come to us with an idea. Not everybody comes having thought about it for 10 years, but they know what they want to be known for or known as. They are coming with an established brand, a business, something that people know them for, and they want to share that with other readers. And so we take that concept and, I coach them, or other members of my team coach them through developing what that looks like. And so we typically help them create a framework, which, when you're in junior high school, it was called an outline, but we don't like to use that word because people start getting the shakes.
Get all triggered.
Yeah, it feels like, oh my God, my seventh grade English teacher. So we create a framework, a structure for them to write to, right? So we do what we call a VIP book creation day, where we crank it all out in one day. Here's what your framework looks like. Here's the main topic of your book, and here's some chapters. And we talk through the book content. And as we talk through this in a day, we're actually recording and transcribing in real time. And so we're creating content in our 1 day VIP day. So they get to take that transcript and sort of put it into a working manuscript, create a great first draft, which, even how great it is, I tell them it's still going to be a little sloppy, but get me something to respond to. So they create a great first draft. We do a 3-phase editing process, and that takes some time, right? That's several months. That's a very important part of the book production process. And this is professional book editing. This is not, people think, oh, well, my niece is an English major down at the community college, and I'm going to have her take a look at my manuscript. No, it doesn't work like that. You need professional book editing. And so we have a 3-phase process, lots of revisions back and forth. And then we take our clients' manuscripts to a beta reader process, which is test readers, right? We want people to take a look at your baby before it's like the ultrasound, right? Take a look at the baby before it's born. Give us some feedback. The whole purpose of the beta reader process is to improve the manuscript for your ideal reader. So amazing feedback people get from the beta reader process. And then we create the cover, and we do the layout, we do the proofreading, like all that takes time. And then the book's up ready to go. So that's about 9 to 12 months. It's a process. We do it all the time. We've done it for dozens and dozens of authors, and it works every single time.
And I love the fact that that's a good amount of work for 12 months. I mean, that doesn't seem like a long time for the amount of work that you're putting into it. Just, I saw my mom through writing a book, me trying to write one. It's a big process. It is not easy. And I don't think it should be done super easily. I think at least the people, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think a lot of the people they go out and sell their book, but really what they write a book for is authority. They want to have a book out there to be able to say as part of a marketing campaign. And so I would not necessarily say you make money on a book, but it has some other options. And so go into some of those options, like what are some of the good reasons to get that book out there that you've seen that your clients have excelled at? Like what has really helped them with a book?
Yeah, authority is right there at the top. So most people do want it to boost their visibility and certainly establish some credibility or enhance the existing credibility, right? You want to be known as the go-to person for XYZ, or you want to share your personal life story as a, inspiration that you've overcome something, whatever. Maybe you want to be a speaker, right? And as you probably know, a lot of speakers, they need a book. They need to have a book. I have a client I'm working with now who came, I won't say she was kicking and screaming, but she didn't want to write a book. Her speakers bureau said, we could get you booked more and get you paid more, but you need to have a book. And she's like, okay, I'm all in.
Yep.
So it really is that authority, credibility boosting opportunity for entrepreneurs who have clients, right? Who do consulting or coaching. They're looking for their book to bring them the visibility to attract more consulting or coaching clients, which totally makes sense. So when clients come and we're talking about the return on investment for producing your book, then yeah, sure, everybody wants to sell lots of books, but that's not the way you earn back a return on your investment in your book. You really want to look at, where are my clients coming from? How am I getting this out? Speaking opportunities, paid speaking opportunities, getting paid more. I've had clients who've created membership groups tied to the content in their book. They've created online courses. lots of other things. I tell people in the beginning, what would you rather have? A $25 book sale, a $250 an hour client, a $2,500, speaking honorarium, or a $25,000 contract? What would you rather have? We want the $25,000. Your book can help you get all of those things, but not if you only focus on the $25 book sale.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where we think about, like, if somebody wrote a book, being in the speaker world, I know how that's not uncommon. A lot of people have these books, but it's interesting from the outside looking at it going, wow, dude, he's got a couple of books done. I think
Yeah.
it's like doing a TED Talks. TED Talks are one of the hardest things you'll ever go through. It's a very rigorous process and does take about 6 months to really do correctly. But it's also a credibility thing,
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'll tell you this, even for my own recent book. So I've written about, I don't know, 8 or 9 books. Recently had a book launch this year called Becoming the Minimalist Entrepreneur. 2 weeks after my book launched, right? So I know all the things. I know how it works. I know what the process is. I went through the exact same process I take my clients through.
Mhm.
Posting on social media, doing all the things, book launch, book launch. Anita has a new book out. 2 weeks after that book launched, someone contacted me and scheduled a complimentary book strategy session. And on that session, we talked, and I says, why did you hear about me? And he says, well, I saw your posts about your new book out. And I thought, oh, that sounds like an interesting book. I'm going to buy it. And he says, I just finished reading your book and I could relate to so much you're talking about in that book. I want you to write my book.
Mm. Ah,
His having him on as a client
yeah.
5x'd the amount that I invested in my own book project.
Mm.
That's the kind of 2 weeks after my book launched.
Mhm.
That's the kind of result I expect from my clients.
Yeah.
May not happen that fast. That was pretty fast for a 5xer.
Mhm.
But that's what you're looking for in terms of return on investment.
Mm.
So yes, the book has sold and that's all exciting. But to bring on a client 2 weeks after book launch and 5x my investment, that's gold.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I want to pivot for a second because I always like to I'd like to tell a little bit about what you do and what the process is, but specifically, I want to hear, how did you get to book publishing? What was the chain of events that happened? Because you had a regular 9 to 5, totally burned out. What was the chain of events that led you up to this point?
Oh my goodness. I will tell you, actually, I've been in business for over 2 decades.
Mm.
So when I started my company, I was working in corporate, working for a small business, and just sort of accidentally, I always in my book, I explain that I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I wasn't looking to start a business,
Yeah.
but things were smelling kind of fishy around the office. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
get a feeling that things aren't exactly stable. And an opportunity landed in my lap and I explored it. And from that, it sort of just became a thing. Like I had a meeting with a lady who's like, oh, I need some website copy written. This was back in the late 90s. So when websites were like becoming a thing for small businesses, I had never written web copy. But like I'm pretty good with my words. I can figure it out. So I meet with her and, try to show up like a boss. Took a long lunch break. If anybody out there is working corporate and you're trying to sneak off to the side to do your little business stuff, you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I had no business name, I had no business bank account, no business cards, I had nothing, right? But I wanted to show up. So I just made up some name, the right image. I'll change it later if it doesn't work. I'll just inside baseball. That's still the name of my company, the right image 27 years later.
Love it.
But yeah, that was sort of the beginning. I gave her a price, had no idea what I would price. We all go through that. We don't know how to price our services. I just made up something. She said yes, and off I went. That's how my business started.
I
And
love
I was still working full time.
Uh-huh.
And I did my business on the side, and over probably a decade, I was, working other jobs and still doing my business on the side. And finally felt like I had enough confidence to leave a full-time job as an employee to do my business. Did that for a while in marketing communication. So I was writing not just website copy, but brochures. Like, who does that anymore?
Mhm.
I was doing a lot of those materials, right? Marketing materials. And then, you know, it wasn't lucrative anymore.
Mm.
I made it hard. I was hustling and grinding, literally,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
I was doing so much, but it seemed like it wasn't enough.
Mm.
So a few times over the years, I went back into corporate.
Mm.
The last time I did, it was extremely painful.
Mhm.
It was like the worst employment experience ever. It
Yeah.
was just hard. That's when I realized I was the square peg, trying
Mhm.
to squeeze myself into a round hole. It
Mm.
was very, very difficult. So, and then here's Anita again, starting up the side gig gears. And during that time, it was right around like just after the recession.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, this is probably not the best time to quit my job. But if I stay here any longer, it's not gonna be good. Somebody's gonna get hurt. It's probably not gonna be me. But so I started to look into some other things of how I could restart my company full time doing something else. Because I thought if I write another press release, I'm gonna just, smack myself 10 times.
Mm.
So I hired a coach, a business coach, who said, Anita, you don't have to do the same thing you always did. What do you love? So we went through the whole process and I landed on the fact that I absolutely love books. Writing had to be a part of it.
Mm.
She said, well, people hire folks to help them write their book. And I'm like the light bulb went on. You got to be kidding me. There's a thing. That's a thing. And so fast forward, that was over a decade ago. And, I sharpened my skills, hobnobbed with all the book publishing people, learned everything I could learn, wrote several of my own books, and just perfected my skill and my process. And here I am.
Mm. Now, so the one thing I always get interested of, and I like to ask questions about, is that transition from the knowing that we're not good employees and we need to move out of the situation, and getting to that point where you can actually, support a company. And I know you've done it a couple of times. Tell me about that first time. Like, what was that like?
That first time, it was scary.
Mhm.
But I felt like I was ready. I think now, with knowing what I know now, I know I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really didn't know enough. I was at a place where I thought I had to do everything myself. I thought
Mm.
entrepreneurs just did all the things,
Yes. Chief
right?
Everything
I mean,
Officer.
and oh my God, I was the chief everything. I did my website, like not just the copy, like I created my own website. I did my web updates. I did my books, my bookkeeping, like I did all the things. And it was ridiculous.
Mhm.
I didn't know the value. I didn't understand the value of hiring other people, either as employees or as contractors. I just thought that I was supposed to do all the things, right?
Mhm.
Because if I don't know how to do it, I can't tell someone else what needs to be done. That's what I thought.
Mhm.
Um, it was very difficult. It was hard. I didn't grow up in entrepreneurship. Like my parents didn't own some fancy businesses or anything. My mom, when I was in high school, I think I was in high school, she started a little business before side gig was called a side gig. She was a wedding planner. She
Huh.
worked full time for the phone company, but she was a wedding planner. She was really good at it. And I saw her sort of build this business and bring people in to help her and all that. And it was quite an inspiration, but I never thought I could do that. Like I never really thought that that was in my blood. Um, so it was difficult the first time I jumped to entrepreneurial feet. I tried, and as an introvert, just something as simple as going to a networking function was like, oh, it took so much out of me.
Uh-huh.
Like, how do I get people to know who I am? Oh, I got to go out like and be visible. Like this was before the internet and virtual things and all that. You had to go out there and be a member of a group and go to their meetings and all that kind of stuff. That was hard for me. That was
Mhm.
really, really hard for me. So that first, experience of full-time entrepreneurship was a struggle. It
Mhm.
was a struggle for me. I learned a lot from that and a lot over the years. And even as I was back in corporate and doing my business on the side, I was able to assess what I did right and what I did wrong previously and do better.
Yeah. And I think there are times when either you go back to corporate for a bit, or especially being in business is making mistakes. It's really what it is. We just do it well, but we make mistakes. And I think being back in that corporate world sometimes can help us, especially through the lurch. We learn something, we go back. We learn something, we go back. Sometimes that's a thing.
Hmm.
And so, I wanted to hear that, like what you had gone through with that specific transition. What were beyond just kind of not being chief everything officer, any other lessons that you learned from that you can kind of help other people who not maybe take the same position, the same path? What other kind of bits of wisdom did you learn that got you now to the point where you're now successfully in your business full time, not having to take on corporate jobs again?
I think one of the things is identifying your strengths,
Mm,
right? I think, and strengthening your strengths. A
mm,
lot of times we're told, oh, you strengthen your weaknesses so that you're strong and all, across the board at all these things. Well, yeah, I disagree with that. I think that we strengthen our strengths and then we bring on people to help us in the areas where we're quote unquote weak. I won't call it that necessarily, but where we're not the best, whatever, bring somebody else on to do that. But really be strong in where you're strong. And it takes um, some intention
mm,
to realize what your strengths are. And they may not be the common things, right? That other people value. You have to value it first. So
mm,
I look at some things that I consider like superpowers for me.
mm.
Um, that in business would be probably considered soft skills.
Yeah.
Like I'm very versatile.
Mhm.
I think that that is a superpower because not everyone could fit themselves into different situations and be comfortable
Mm,
and be effective. I feel like another superpower of mine is that I can see the big picture and the details at the same time.
mhm.
Not a lot of people could do that. Some people are big picture thinkers and visionaries, and other people are very detailed with their focus. But not often do you see people with both. And I have the ability to do both. So
Mm,
you have to identify your strengths and play to your strengths and build on those strengths in order really to be the best entrepreneur you can be. And then realize that whatever you're not strong in, you can always hire and bring other people in to support you in that way.
yeah, I think I heard it put very succinctly. It's work your strengths, hire your weaknesses. And
Exactly.
it sounds like you're somebody very similar to me, where I want to have a limited functional knowledge of every part of my business. So that way, then I kind of, when I'm giving instructions to my crew, I have at least have enough information that I know what information they need. If there's any blanks that need to be filled in, that's great, but I have a direction. Like I'm not completely a novice at it. But,
There you
for me, I
go.
found myself running into the same thing that you did at first too, thinking you're chief everything officer and then having to do everything yourself. And I burned myself out really badly a number of times doing that. And
Hmm.
then finally just realizing there are other people that are as at least as good as I am at this. Let's start bringing other people in. And
Yeah.
that was a game changer, you know.
And that's a trust thing. I mean, you have
Yes,
to,
it
this is
is.
like your business is your baby, right? And
Oh
you
yeah.
got to be able to trust other people with it. So that's relationship
Mhm.
building. I mean, it's not just hiring someone off the street or you look at someone's resume or LinkedIn page or whatever and be like, oh, that's a good person. It is really building relationships with people. And I'm super happy that I have a phenomenal team like these. They're all women,
Mhm.
incidentally,
Nice.
who just bring extreme value to the work that we do here, whether it's a cover designer or an editor or a copywriter or like they're really good at what they do. They love what they do. They care about it. They care about the finished product
Mhm.
and they respect me and the work that I do. I mean, it's a love fest. It really is. I love the people I work with.
Nice. Awesome. But I think the other thing as well too is that as entrepreneurs, I've seen a number of entrepreneurs who are amazing visionaries and have this awesome, awesome vision for the company and they know where it's going and they've got this, they have this great idea and they've got the ability to stick with it and make it go. And they're absolutely freaking terrible managers. And I think that is not usually a skill set I see in a visionary. And I think that's the other part of it too that I've seen is I don't want to bring someone in or I bring the wrong person in and they're not a good fit or
Yeah.
I don't manage expectations properly and now I'm bringing somebody in and they have no idea what they're going to do.
Yeah.
I'm thinking they're an entrepreneur. They are not. It's a different communication styles, and I think that's
Right.
another thing
Right.
that I see too. So, yeah, but it's getting staff in and building a team. is really critical, I think, to actually being successful. You can own a job for a while and do it yourself. I know people who are very happy with this. More power to you. I tend to like to meet people where they're at. And if you're happy, that's really the biggest thing. If you're not happy, you need to change something. But to really build the businesses, big businesses, I think management's a huge issue. And that's
Yeah,
something you really have to become a good manager very quickly.
it takes practice. It does.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So you do have a book out, Becoming a Minimalist Entrepreneur. Talk a little bit about what you go into that book, because I think that's an interesting concept.
Yeah, people wonder about the minimalist stuff, right? The subtitle is Lessons from My Journey to
Uh-huh.
Work Less, Earn More, and Play More.
Hmm.
And I had to realize that why am I in this business in the first place? That was in the heart, the depths of the dark parts of like, it's so hard. Why am I doing this? And I had to think about the fact of, like we talked about earlier, what's your why? Like, be very clear about your why. Why are you doing this? And I had to get very clear about what that is and understand that it's for me, right? Yes, I want to help people and we all want to help people, but I want to like enjoy my life. I want to enjoy the work that I do and the people that I work with. And so the impetus for this book was really just sharing the lessons I've learned over the more than 25 years in business. Um, to help other entrepreneurs either see that they're not alone, because I know I'm not the only one who's been through a lot of the things that I've been through, but also to know that they don't have to go through this if they haven't been through it. So becoming the minimalist entrepreneur was really about three things. It was about me understanding that I have to clarify, simplify, and focus. Those are like what I consider the three tenets of the minimalist entrepreneur. So clarify your why. Why are you doing this business in the first place? And who are you doing it for, right? Who are you serving? And what do you do? So be very clear about that. And over time, that becomes, more solid. We don't always know the true big picture of it until we take some time to think about it. Sometimes you don't realize it until you actually get in your business, right?
Mhm.
So clarify what it is in your why. Simplify your entrepreneurial journey. There was a time that lasted really long in my entrepreneurial space where it was extremely complicated. I not only had my one-on-one coaching practice, I also had another business with two other business partners. We were doing podcasting. We had a membership group. We had an online course. Like we were doing all the things.
Uh-huh.
It was complicated. It was very complicated and it burned me out. And so I had to pull back from a lot of that and just say, what is the core of what I want to offer and what brings me the most joy in this business? Because if I'm not hitting on that, it's going to fold really quickly. So you've got to simplify your entrepreneurial life. You don't have to do all the things all at one time, really. Focus, simplify, and focus. So the focus part is once you simplify, once you clarify what you're doing, why you're doing it, who you're doing it for, you simplify it, like scale it down to the least common denominator, then it's time to focus. Just focus on that. Focus makes it so easy to say a two-letter word that we're so afraid of, and that is no.
Mm.
Focusing allows you to say no to things that just don't fit
Mhm.
with what you say you're doing. And so that really is the core and the foundation of becoming the minimalist entrepreneur. Clarify, simplify, and focus.
Yeah. And understanding no is a complete sentence. I think that's
No
what
is a complete sentence, and it is not a four-letter word. Just say no.
and I think that, for me, it was, trying not to justify why no, because I can't, no, sometimes it's just no,
Just
nope,
no.
not what I need. We're going in this
Mhm.
direction, something
Yeah.
different.
It's
Yeah,
quite liberating once you learn to say that.
it truly is. So we're getting towards the end of the episode. I do have one question I ask all of my guests, and that is, what is one book or podcast that has had a major impact on your life that you can share with the audience?
I would love to give you like a fancy schmancy business book, right? Because I've read a lot. Like I do a lot of reading. That's my life. I read every day.
Uh-huh.
But I will say that one book that really made a big impact on me is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
Yeah.
The four agreements, he talks about these agreements that we make with ourselves
Mhm.
that really guide or should guide everything in your life. And I can certainly apply it to business, and you can too. And the four agreements are: be impeccable with your word,
Mhm.
don't take anything personally,
Mhm.
don't make assumptions, and always do your best.
Mhm.
Super simple in life, but certainly applicable to business.
Yeah. My niece lives with me, and we have a sign on her wall that has the four agreements on it. And because I think it's incredibly important that she learn those so that she understands and grows. And she's 11 right now and is starting to take some of it to heart. And I think she'll be well set up for life just by following those four things, Yeah. And I love how
Absolutely.
simple they are, but they're very effective.
Very much. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Anita, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks again for joining us on the Hustle and Grind podcast. If you'd like to learn more about Anita, check out the link in the description.